Good morning, everyone. Woo. Can you hear me in the back there? Raise your hand if it's okay. Okay, great. Well, welcome, everybody. I'm Dick Nesbitt. I am the Director of Admission. If you've been going to several of these revisit days, this is Williams, by the way. This is Williams College. And you've been admitted to the class of 2017, so congratulations for that. On behalf, let's give it a little hand. Yeah. And so on behalf of the entire admission staff, I'm honored to welcome all of you. There are students, there are parents, grandparents, other family members, so welcome to everyone. You can see I'm wearing my previews tie today. Those of you who got to meet me earlier, it's got cows on it, all different colored kinds of cows. And it's good to have a previews day, so I get to wear this, because it's the only time I do get to wear my previews tie. Otherwise, it's sort of unfit for consumption. But you know it's a good day, though, when you get up in the morning and you tie your tie, and the purple cow is right at the top on the first try. We have a wonderful panel of students and faculty who are eager to share their perspectives on Williams. But before I turn the microphone over to President Falk, just like to publicly thank my staff, the admission staff, for all the work they put in, which led to the fact that you're out there, sitting out there right now, all through the year, starting with the very beginnings. I talked to family members about, I met one of your representatives on the road at my school, or right up through the reading process and the committee process. And then this is kind of the reward for us, to see you all sitting out there. So the members of the admission staff, would you raise your hands out there? Anybody out there? Oh, there's a few. I want a big shout out for Derek Robertson back there. Derek's our master planner for this, so he's responsible for all the good programming that you have planned for you in the next couple days, or next 2 days. We have roughly 400 students, give or take, attending previews today. This all results from an initial applicant pool of about 7,000. From that 7,000, we admitted, I think we admitted 1,157 students, and including there were 249 who came via early decision. So I know there's some early decision students out there. Raise your hand if you were admitted early decision. Excellent, give them a hand. And then the others admitted regular decision, raise your hand. Okay. So for the early decision group, your job in the next 2 days is to get at least one or two of these other people who applied regular decision to come to Williams. And our target for our class is 550. So that's what we're shooting for, arriving in the fall. A class of 550 for the class of 2017. The program that you received, there's a program for parents and there's a program for students, but in case, let me just point out a few highlights of that program, because we do, like I said, schedule it pretty tightly. Just after this program, there are going to be some special interest tours. And those are going to leave from right outside this building. There's a special, and the parents are welcome to go on these. I don't know that this is on your program, but the parents are welcome to go on the special interest tour. There's one of the music facilities, one of the studio art facilities, there's one of the theater and dance facilities, and there's also one of the Williams College Museum of Art. And I'll highlight that for parents, because that would be a treat. Usually it's closed on Monday, but the WICMA, we call it, Williams College Museum of Art, is open for a tour right after this program. Then there are several other panels that are going on throughout the afternoon. One called Beyond the Classroom. There's a financial aid panel at 2:15. Life After Williams, a career counseling, career center program at 3:30. For the students, there's an academic open house, so you can go and speak to professors in different departments. And if you need any directions to those, they're in your program, but we can also point you in the right direction there. For those interested in foreign languages, or even if you're sort of shy about foreign languages, there's a great thing called speed learning. It's kind of like speed dating, but it's, try a little of this, try a little of that. You can learn a few phrases in some different languages that you may not have been exposed to before. And then the Dean of the college, Sarah Bolton, will be giving a panel called Making the Most of Williams, talking about support services and health services. That's later on in the afternoon. For the parents and guardians and grandparents and family, there's also a reception at 6 o'clock over in the Alumni Center Faculty Club. So we invite you to come to that as well. And then tomorrow for the parents, there's a coffee hour at the Clark Art Institute, which is a little bit, it's down the road on South Street, just a little bit, so we invite you to come to that as well. So let's let the program begin. So let me tell you, our first speaker is President Adam Falk. Since becoming the 17th president of Williams in April of 2010, Adam Falk is focused on advancing the college's mission of providing the finest possible liberal arts education by working with faculty to strengthen the curriculum, further enrich student residential life, and maximize the educational value derived from the growing diversity of the college's students, faculty, and staff. President Falk joined the college from Johns Hopkins University, where he served as Dean of the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences, and earlier as the Dean of Faculty. A high-energy physicist and award-winning teacher whose research focuses on elementary particle physics and quantum field theory, Falk is a fellow of the American Physical Society and a winner of prestigious awards from the National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, the Research Corporation, and the Sloan Foundation. President Falk and his wife Karen reside in the Williams President's house currently with their 3 children, Brianna, David, and Alex. Please welcome Adam Falk.
Is this on? Oh, okay. I couldn't find a button on it. That's how you can tell I was a theoretical physicist, because I can't use any actual piece of equipment. So, welcome. It's really, really wonderful to have you here, to both the decided and undecided students and your families. And Dick Nesbitt has already given the task to the decided students about what they need to do to convince everyone else here who's still thinking about Williams that Williams is a great place to think about. So this is nice. I think probably the last time many of you were here, you were thinking about Williams and wondering whether you'd be chosen. So you've gone from being the choosees to the choosers, which has got to be a more relaxing place to be. I will say that it is to our credit that we were smart enough to choose you, so that's got to be a strike in our favor. But you've got, I think, those of you who have decided already to come to Williams, congratulations, and we're really excited to see you in the fall. And you went through a choosing process a little earlier. But for those of you who are deciding now, you've done the very best thing you can possibly do to make that decision, which is to come here and meet the people. And I can't promise you that the weather will always be like this, which is kind of nice. I'm going to emphasize that if you look at the trees, they're a little fuzzy. They're getting buds, so spring is coming. Last year when we had previews, it was 85 degrees, and I really couldn't promise that. But you're really here to not only absorb the physical environment, but to meet the people. And what I can promise you is whether or not this weather is typical of April, the people that you're going to meet are totally typical of Williams. Now, we admitted you because we think that you'll be tremendously successful if and when you come. And the decision that, so we're thrilled about that. But what you've got to decide is where you're going to really feel passionate about being. And I think that's the way you want to think about this visit, and this way you want to think about the whole period ahead of you in making this choice. So what I want to do is not convince you that Williams is, in some absolute scale, the best place to go to college, although I wouldn't work here if I didn't think it was an incredibly terrific place to go to college. But what I want to do, and I think what we all want to do, is give you a sense of what Williams is, and so that you can decide if this is, for you, the best place to come to college. So what do we offer here? I think we offer a kind of remarkable collection of 3 complementary things. So the first is a very high-quality, rigorous, deep, broad academic experience. I think the equivalent of any place in this country. And in an environment that is remarkably supportive of your academic and intellectual growth and your work. What we believe here deeply in the liberal arts model of a college education. We're going to teach you plenty of facts. There is no shortage of facts conveyed into the minds of students here at Williams. But those facts are in support of something that we think is much more important, which are the higher purposes for which you've really come to get a college education, to think critically, to be able to write effectively, to argue persuasively, to collaborate with people who are very different from yourself, to be effective in the world that you're going to go out into. And we do this in a way that is old and yet, I think, always has been the best way to educate, which is we bring you together with faculty. So I don't care much about the US News rankings, I really don't. But one of the numbers that we submit to them that I'm really proud of is the 7-to-1 student-faculty ratio. And what that ratio means is that at Williams you have incredible opportunities for kind of small group, one-on-one, few-on-one interactions with faculty, which is really the heart of what we do. So we have tutorials, which are classes with 1 faculty member and 2 students, and where those students engage with each other under the guidance of the faculty member. So many of our students do independent work during the semesters, and hundreds of our students in the summers are here doing independent work. Our seminars are small. Some of the places you may be looking at may think of a large class as being 200 people. Here, a large class is 50 people. And so the chance to interact with faculty is at the heart of what we do. We think that's the heart of education. We actually have you'll hear it, if you come you'll get sick of it, but we have a little phrase that I want to kind of introduce you to, which is Mark Hopkins on a log and a student on the other, called Mark Hopkins and the Log. You go down to the log on Spring Street. Mark Hopkins was a president here for about a third of the 19th century. He was kind of the great figure in education and in that period, and he taught every senior an ethics seminar. And there was a gathering in New York City of alumni, kind of at the latter part of his presidency, where the alumni were being anxious about the state of the facilities here at the college. Were the buildings nice enough, and were the dirt tracks smooth enough, I guess. And James Garfield, who later became the only Williams graduate to become President of the United States, said, in response to this conversation, he said, he said, we don't care about the facilities. The best college, the finest college, is Mark Hopkins on one end of a log and a student on the other. And that's the point of that what it's all about is the professor and the student, and it's all about the students with each other. And the fact that we talk about that is a sign of what we think is important. So faculty-mentor relationships, that's what you'll get here. You'll also come second to a place which I think is a really special place for being who you are and becoming who you're going to be. To live, to learn, to thrive here. There's no one way of being an EAF. There's many ways of being an EAF as there are students here at Williams. Being in a small place, though, means that we have the opportunity to be intentional about the nature of our community. We talk about our community a lot. We talk about who we want to be. We talk about how we want to be with each other. That's very much in the culture here. And so it means that to come to Williams is to sign up to being really engaged with a community. Right? It's not coming just to take 32 classes. So come if that's what you want, to be deeply engaged with 2,000 other students and committed to that. And those are the deepest rewards from a time here. The town is beautiful. It draws you outside. It's hard to stay inside any season, even spring, here in Williamstown. And it keeps you busy. My family and I have never been busier. We lived in Baltimore. You'd think you'd be busy in a big city like Baltimore. We've never been busier than we are here in Williamstown. And I think it's a preparation, a remarkable preparation for success in life broadly conceived. Not just your professional success, but it's your personal success, your ethical success, your spiritual success. We care about all of those things. And so it brings us to this question of what is it for, right? That's what you're trying to decide. Well, I want to go to college. What would I want to go to college for? I think there's a very discouraging national conversation about that right now, which seems to pin it all on what's your starting salary the day you walk out the door. That is not what we are focused on here. We're focused on preparing you not for your first job. You will get a first job. You know, it may not be one that pays you $1 million a year and lets you work 10 hours a week, but you will get a first job. We're not worried about that. What we're preparing you for is your career. For your last job, we're preparing you for your life. And that is what we've done for, that's a life that is going to unfold over many decades. Our graduates do everything, and often they do things that have no relation to what they majored in Williams. And I think that's true of everywhere. It's certainly true. Some of them even come back here to teach. You can imagine that, and you're going to meet one of those. The other thing I'll say is that our alumni, I've met a lot of alumni over my last 3 years, and they say two things that I think you should keep in mind. One is that they didn't appreciate what they got from Williams until decades maybe after they left here. And the second is that it wasn't the facts that they learned, but the capacities they developed, the relationships with faculty and other students that they had. So, and that their impact on the world they felt was really disproportionate to the size of our alumni body, and I think that's really true. So, you know, what each of you is going to do, you have a decision to make, and I think you've got to figure out where you're going to thrive, because that's the place that you ought to go. What I can tell you is that Williams is a great place to thrive, to learn, to spend 4 years and become, you know, in many ways the person that you're going to become. And I hope that for many of you, that Williams turns out to be the place that's really best for you. So we decided the best way is to, rather than continuing to hear from me, is to hear from people who really know the place from the inside. We have, to my right, 2 students, 1 professor, and 1 alumnus in the 3 people to my right. And we'll take them in turn, and you can probably figure out how we managed to do that. In fact, I'm the only person on this stage who is not and never will be an alumnus of Williams College. So I feel very left out. But again, thank you for coming. Our first speaker is going to be Jay Mehta. He's a senior economics major from Purchase, New York. So during his career here, Jay's been a member of the varsity tennis team, the step dance team, the college council, the Layman Council for Community Engagement, and the South Asian Students Organization. He's also been an admission tour guide, an outdoor orientation leader, and a DJ on WCFM radio. His favorite weekends are Mountain Day weekend and Previews weekend. Jay.
True story, that last bit. That's not a Previews gimmick. So anyways, I wanted to start off my little bit by congratulating you guys. It's a tremendous achievement to be admitted to the class of 2017, so congratulations, students and parents. And I was wondering, I actually remember sitting in your seats 4 years ago, and I was wondering if this story would come up because the last president, President Shapiro, always spoke about this urban legend, or rural legend in Williamstown, that 40% of Williams graduates end up marrying one another. And I was sitting in your seats, and my mother turns to me, and her face just told the entire story. She goes, you can come here, but you're not getting married in college. So I'm unmarried, but I wanted to continue that preview's traditions. Now you guys can pass it on. So one of the things that struck me as soon as I reached this campus, my junior advisor, if you guys don't know what that is, you'll hear about it at some point in the next 2 days, told me that he loves this place more than anywhere else in the world. And I was like, okay, he's my junior advisor, he's got to say that. But now I sit here and I'm going to repeat those words to you guys and then talk a little bit about why that's the case. So I wanted to focus my bit on something that President Falk alluded to, this term, the Williams community, that comes up all the time. You'll hear it many, many times. Demystify it. I think the Williams community boils down to the kind of people the kinds of students that choose to come here, professors that choose to work here, and staff that choose to work here. So what are these people actually like? The first quality that I think they share is like a genuine kindness that comes out of the belief that this place kind of engenders, that everyone here is at their best when people around them are at their best. So I have a story to demonstrate. So I wasn't sure which activities I wanted to participate in college. I had always enjoyed playing tennis. I played for my varsity tennis team in high school, but I was not recruited to Williams. So a couple days before I got here, I shot the men's varsity tennis coach an email. I really did not have many tennis accomplishments at that point, but I tried to lay them out. And he responded, saying, come to practice on this day, it's when it starts. We'll also have a fitness test, and this is what we do. So I freaked out, naturally. Fitness test. And I grabbed my headphones and I went on a run, the first run that I went on all summer. I came here, I failed the fitness test, had a couple days of practice, and officially walked on to the men's tennis team. And it was a dream come true. I was a varsity athlete at Williams, not being recruited. But I think it speaks to the fact that people here help other people here out if and when they can. Next quality that I want to talk about is support. Something that I felt every single second of every single day that I've been here. And President Falk also alluded to this. That means academic support, social support, athletic support. So it was later my fall semester of my freshman year that I found myself in the 62 Center sitting at a dance department showcase, showcasing all the different department groups. And there was one group in particular that I was just wide-eyed at. I couldn't really believe what they were doing on stage in a good way. And so when spring auditions came around, it was actually a tennis tournament that made me an hour late to auditions out of 2. And I just met this one girl maybe a week or 2 before who was like, oh, Jay seems like a nice guy, he'll be a positive addition to the team. We should let him audition. So I thought that I had bombed that audition. I got the email a couple days later that I had made the team. And I remember fist pumping and skipping my way down Mission Hill, which is where I lived. That I'm going to demonstrate because this is what you'll see me doing around campus a lot, and this coming Friday and Saturday. Also, we unfortunately cannot perform at the Jamboree tonight because we have a concert this week. So this is what I do for many hours a day and love. Goes a little something like this.
Yeah, Jay.
Thank you. So anyways, at my first performance, my freshman spring, I remember being told that everybody else, or seemingly everybody else on stage, had fierce faces on, and I just had a huge smile plastered across my face. Different styles of performance. No, but one absolutely wonderful thing was that I think out of my entry of 20 students that I lived with freshman year, some of whom are actually in the back right now. There's Madeline, I see her. I think 16 or so, 15, 16 of them came to support me, including my 2 junior advisors, and they baked me a big basket of cookies, and it was great. It felt like home, and yeah, these memories, they stick with you, and I didn't expect that my freshman year of college. So anyways, that's the support that you will feel if you come here. We have events. You guys might have seen the chalk for on the ground for Take Back the Night. There's also You Are Not Alone. These are nights of solidarity for victims of rape or sexual assault or people struggling with mental health issues. basically just outlets and venues for them to speak and receive an audience if they need it. So there's a culture about this place that you want to support your peers. Last year, I had the tremendous opportunity to be a junior advisor myself. So I tried to befriend, or I tried to be a friend and a mentor. And the first person that 21st years saw and met when they reached campus, and in turn, I think I was mentored more than I did mentoring. I remember last year during my birthday, this is one exceptional memory that I've had over the 4 years here. We hiked up Stone Hill, which I think there's a hike up tonight, so you guys should go on that. And we just grooved to some acoustic guitaring and Jack Johnson, and just saw the stars from a Berkshire point of view, which is exactly what I needed to do. So that speaks to friendship. Williams is an intimate place. It's really small. You basically can't walk anywhere off campus. Even off-campus housing is on campus. In fact, I think it's closer than where I live right now. So the result is that you get to know an incredible number of people on this campus. I love the fact that I'm on a first-name basis with the dining services staff at Presky, that President Falk knows my name and waves hello to me. It's a huge ego boost. I almost got him to partake in holy festivities a couple days ago. Yeah, and that, I play pool with the custodians when I'm down in Mission, because I lived there my freshman year. So, point being, you get to know a ton of these people. Many opportunities are opened up. For example, last year during spring break, I spent a week of my 2 weeks of spring break down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the land of Roll Tide. And I volunteered with Habitat for Humanity. Tuscaloosa was hit by the tornado a couple of years ago. So we volunteered as a group of 10 students, a trip led by the chaplain's office. So I've got to know the 4 chaplains here at Williams. And we helped build a home for Jim and Pam Nero. They're a family whose house was torn down. And we sang them into their new home. I'm going to refrain from singing right now for your benefit. But I'm sure some people here did that better than me on the trip. So anyways, so I wanted to talk about the friendship that you receive here, or that you partake in here, and how that doesn't stop when you leave the college. So I was actually a Williams alum last year. Last year I applied to a bunch of consulting interviews, and it was a Williams alum who helped me through those interviews. I remember his company came down here and did mock interviews, and I signed up for one, and we sat down at the room and introduced ourselves, and he basically just got right into it. And he asked me to estimate the market size, or estimate how many print copies of the New York Times are sold on a Monday in the United States. And I basically just looked down at my paper and looked up at him, looked down, looked up, and just thought to myself, you've got to be kidding me. I had no idea how to start, but he helped me through that one and many others, and eventually actually landed an internship with his firm for the summer. So they hire quite a few Williams grads, so I was mentored by him and the other Williams students that were there. And I think the point being is that they get this experience, and they value this experience, and they look out for current Williams students. I think I tried to boil it down. Why do they do it? I think it's because you have some common experiences. They've been to $5 burger night at the Purple Pub. They've tailgated before our homecoming games. They've been absolutely awful at broom ball, similar to myself. Do you guys know what broom ball is? It's basically like hockey, except you play in your regular shoes, and you don't really, for some reason, people don't really get injured, or at least I haven't heard of them. Maybe they're more coordinated. And they get that Williams students are team players, because you kind of have to be if you go to a school this small and this isolated, which I think is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So it's difficult to boil down what has made Williams a special place for me, really, in just a few sentences. But if I can, it's granted me a home from which I can proceed into the real world in just a couple weeks. And it's given me a lot, and I'm so grateful for this, of people, my people, who I can talk to. I can have, I can share my story if and when I need to. And yeah, that's been huge for me. I think the compassion that permeates most every discussion that you see over here is really a special thing. And it really revolves around this belief that we're in this together, I'm doing better if you're doing better. So thank you for hearing my bit. I hope you enjoy the rest of your stays in Williamstown, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Jay. So next, we're going to hear from Carrie Trible. Carrie is a senior biology major from Honolulu, Hawaii. Did I know you were from Honolulu? I don't know. With a keen interest in environmental studies. During her time at Williams, she served on the boards of the Minority Coalition and the Queer Student Union, worked as a tour guide, biology tutor, and writing workshop tutor, and has been a member of the equestrian team. Her interests include conservation biology, community building, and activism. Carrie.
All right, well, I have a bit of a hard act to follow. I'm unfortunately not going to get up on stage and step for you or do any type of dancing, but I think that's for the benefit of my physical health as well as for your experience here. So, first of all, thank you, President Falk, and for Mr. Nesbitt for having us on this panel. It's a great honor, and again, congratulations to all of you. It's really great to see everyone here, and I also was at previews, I think, 4 or 5 years, was it 5 years ago? It was 5 years ago. Anyway, 4 years ago? Yeah, a biology major, but I don't do well at math. I know that this can be a really hectic time. You're trying to decide where to go, and so it's great that you've been able to make Williams a stop on your trip. So before I get into what makes Williams such an amazing place for me, a brief introduction. I'm currently writing a thesis on plant population genetics, and I have lived with my friends from my entry all 4 years at Williams, including my freshman year roommate, who I still affectionately refer to as my roomie, and another girl who was self-labeled meal girl because her biggest fear when coming to college was that she would have to eat a meal alone, and she designated herself as the meal texter. And every night, she would text out a time and dining hall so that she would always have friends to eat with. So rest assured, you will have someone to eat with during your dinners at Williams if you choose to come here. And lastly, the reason why I always say that I came to Williams, although I'm questioning now whether or not this was true, was that when I visited, I hiked up Stone Hill on my first visit here, and at the recommendation of an alum that I knew, and I fell in love with the view, which seems like a really silly reason to choose a college. And so I've been trying to think about why I really did come. I don't think it was actually just the view from Stone Hill. And when President Falk was speaking earlier, I was struck by the phrase that you need to find a place where you feel passionate about being. And I think that when I came to Williams, what I caught a sense of, although I wasn't able to pin down why, was that this really was a place where I would be able to feel passionate about being. And the reason for that is what I'm going to try to speak to a little bit now, which is that Williams really encourages you to be an agent of your own educational experience, both in the classroom and in this community. So academically, we've already talked about tutorials a little bit. You'll hear more about them if you go on tours, if you go to an information session, and to all of the different academic fairs that are going on this weekend, or Monday. So tutorials are, however, only one example of what Williams values, which is students really taking charge of their own educational experience. When you're in a tutorial, and I've taken 2 tutorials now, often the professor will make a joke about, well, I'm not really here teaching, you're the ones teaching me. That's not entirely true. They're there for a reason, and they often have a lot to contribute, but their point stands that that when you're in that room and you're reading a paper that you've written and you're discussing it with your classmate, you're the one who picks out of the reading what's important and who really identifies what you feel passionately about in that particular topic that you think is worth educating yourself and your peer on further. In addition to that, and that theme flies through all of the different classes that you can take here, not just in tutorials, Williams has an astounding number of opportunities for independent research and for conducting your own classes. So, for example, last summer I was granted a travel fellowship to study intercultural health in Ecuador and Bolivia. And what that basically meant was that Williams decided that it was worthwhile to send me to 2 countries in South America and let me wander through cities that I'd never been to before and try to figure out some things about intercultural health. It was entirely self-directed research. I'm a biology major, and I was trying to teach myself on the go how to do quasi-anthropology. But that opportunity, along with a number of other opportunities to do independent research, shows how much Williams values students who are willing to take initiative and pick out what they're really interested in. So in addition to the summer opportunities, winter study is a great time that you can really choose to go forward and pursue something that you feel passionately about and you want to further your own education on. Lastly, just to talk about a funny story that I have from a class, which is my sophomore year I was enrolled in a 300 level English class, a little outside of my comfort zone. It was all on the literature of Faulkner. And I love this class. It's one of my favorite classes that I've taken at Williams. And one of the best memories I have from it was one day, it was 10 people in the class, and we got to our classroom, and we sat there, we were a little bit early, and we were just talking about our weekend, about the reading briefly, waiting for the professor to arrive. And a couple of minutes went by, and it was almost time for class to start, and the professor still wasn't there. So we just kept chatting, and a couple of minutes went by again, and the professor still wasn't there. And at this point, we were sort of starting to wonder what was happening. The professor's always, this professor especially, always on time, if not 5 to 10 minutes early to class. And so some of us started reminiscing on our high school policies, where if a teacher is 10 minutes late, you can leave, or what the policy was at your high school. And we didn't really know what the Williams policy was, but we figured that no one would fault us for leaving if the professor didn't show up within 15 minutes. However, someone then said, well, we could just start talking about the reading. And everyone kind of laughed, but at the same time, someone else said, actually, yeah, I was really confused about this part of the book. Could we maybe go over it? And a student stood up and started drawing a family tree. If you've ever read Faulkner, the kinship is just crazy. Started drawing a family tree in the whiteboard. And we spent the entire duration of the class period discussing the reading that was assigned for the day. And the professor actually never made it to class. So this sounds horrible. I know that the professor apparently had had a family emergency and had not had time to contact the department secretary to let us know that the class was canceled beforehand. And we actually then had a meeting later that week in which we told him what we had learned that day. So I think just, it goes to show that I can't imagine wanting to learn in any other place than Williams, where you will have students who, rather than leaving, will sit and talk about Faulkner for an hour and 15 minutes, even when the professor's not there. And I value that class time as one of the times in which I've learned the most at Williams. But moving on from academics, I think Williams also is a place that values student involvement in how we define community. So Jay talked a lot about the Williams community, and it really is something that we take pride in. We take pride in our intentional community, as President Falk put it. And so through my work with first the Career Student Union and then the Minority Coalition, this work has often required that I collaborate actively with members of the administration and other student groups to make sure that Williams is a school that is as welcoming to all students, including those from historically marginalized backgrounds and identities, as possible. And so, for example, my first year at Williams, a group of students from the Career Student Union and the Women's Center got together and decided that Williams should change its housing policy to one of gender-neutral housing, in which upperclassmen could choose to live with either someone of the same gender or a different gender in doubles. So it was a fairly popular policy. No one really seemed to mind. It wouldn't be forcing anyone to live with anyone that they didn't live. It would just provide more options. And we talked to the administration, and they said, sure. And what has consistently struck me about interactions like this and other interactions that I've had with the administration over my time at Williams is that there is always willingness and enthusiasm on the part of the college for receiving student feedback and accordingly altering policy. And that's something that I have really valued because it has allowed me and other students to take a look around and say, what is the community that we want to be living in? How can we create that community? Go to the people that are allowed to make those changes and be welcomed. And it's something that has encouraged me to grow, to learn about leadership, to learn about myself, and to learn about what I really value in a way that that I don't think an experience without this type of student engagement would have allowed me to do. So those are my main thoughts, that Williams is a place that will allow you and teaches you to gain skills for critical thinking and self-reflection, both of yourself and of the place that you want to be and that you want to live in. And it allows you to develop the skills that you need to continue with that type of involvement after you leave. So thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. So finally, we have Joe Cruz. Joe's a professor in the philosophy department and chair of the Cognitive Science program. And he was a first-generation college student graduating from Williams in 1991 and later earning a dual PhD in philosophy and cognitive science at the University of Arizona. Joe specializes in the philosophy of the mind and the theory of knowledge. And some of his recent courses include Perception and Reality, Consciousness, History of Modern Philosophy, and Philosophy and Animal Life. He's currently the chair of the Committee on Undergraduate Life. Joe is an avid adventure cyclist who has traveled extensively in India, Tibet, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and South America. He has also been the coach of the Williams cycling team. Joe.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, gang, for being here. Congratulations to all of you, and we appreciate you visiting us today. I think by any measure, and in the confidence of all of us, the Williams faculty is a world-class faculty. It's a faculty that has folks who are contributing to knowledge, people who are making knowledge, people who are admired for their scholarly contributions. I think of my colleague Safa Zaki in psychology, or Enrique Picat Lopez in chemistry, or I think of George Dreyfus or Derek Goldstein, folks who are world-renowned in their fields. We are proud of the fact that the college sustains our efforts and encourages our efforts to be at the cutting edge of making knowledge. At the same time, all of us are committed to teaching, and all of us are committed to the thesis that having a fiery curiosity, having a dedication to scholarship, having a dedication to the intellectual life is not only not inconsistent with being committed to teaching, but is integral to being committed to teaching. It's a mission that we take seriously, it's a mission that I take seriously, and a mission that I recall fondly my teachers taking seriously when I was here at Williams. And this idea, the idea that being a scholar and being a teacher are in the most positive synergistic relationship, this idea is as old as the college is. We go back to the college's mythology, the story of Garfield proclaiming Hopkins on one end of a log and a student on another end of a log. I actually brought a book by Mark Hopkins. He was a philosophy professor. That got lost in the chronic. I'm sure he dabbled in physics. And the remarkable thing about this 1883 book by Mark Hopkins, right, The Fabric of the College. The remarkable book is, the thing about the book is that it starts off, the preface starts off with an apology. And the apology is, when you read a book, it's not like having a conversation. It's not like being in a classroom. I apologize, the author of this book, apologize that your experience of these ideas isn't going to be the same as when the ideas emerge in conversation and in collaboration. You think to yourself, this is a person who takes seriously his mission at the college. And I think it can stand as a metaphor for the way that all of us on the faculty take seriously our mission at the college, to make knowledge, to nurture knowledge, but to nurture it in such a way that all of our students are involved in a collaborative, curious effort. So teaching at the college, I've had some of my best experiences as a scholar whilst being a teacher. There's no academic paper that I've ever written, no book that I've ever authored that didn't first originate in conversations that I had with students. The idea that I come to my seminars with is the conversation I'm about to have is a conversation that maybe someday down the line is going to contribute to human flourishing, is going to contribute to what we are and what we know. And I rely on my students, I learn from my students, I admire my students for the way in which they can bring the community of learning together and turn it into something that 10 years down the line or 100 years down the line, as the case may be, that we can admire. We do lots of different kinds of teaching here at the college. I suppose every kind that you could imagine. Sure, we have lectures. There might be 50 people in the hall, or 100, as there might be in my colleague's logic class. Sure, you might be thinking lectures achieve a certain kind of economy of scale. You might be thinking that, well, when enough students sign up for Psychology 101, of course they're going to do it lecture style. But I promise you that on the faculty, if we thought the lecture wasn't the most effective way of covering material, we would decide to teach it as a seminar, and we do it 3 times over or 9 times over as the need demanded. But we're committed to the idea that at least some of the time, there's a kind of teaching that's crucial for us to do, the kind of teaching where you want to sustain narrative, where you want to be able to walk in as a professor and tell a story from beginning to end, and that might take 75 minutes, and then afterward in office hours or at lunch or on the playing field, you might continue that conversation with your students, but there's a point to having a lecture on the history of the novel. There's a point to having a lecture on the history of modern philosophy. There's a point to having a lecture in organic chemistry. We do that kind of teaching. We also do seminar teaching. These are occasions for faculty to get together with 3 students, or 15 students, or 12 students, and sit around a table, have a conversation. My style is to talk for 10 minutes to remind us where we've been and make some suggestions on where we're headed. But at that point, the hope is that all of us will be part of that conversation, that everyone will be alive and contributing. That doesn't mean we're all on stage. That doesn't mean there's any pressure to have a contribution at any given moment. But it does mean making the learning environment comfortable enough, respectful enough, serious enough, so that we can make progress on the ideas that we're thinking about. To me, a successful seminar, 12 people, 14 people, 3 people, a successful seminar is one where everyone talks at least once, everyone seems engaged, and everyone is alive. That's a winning day, as in my world. We also do another kind of teaching in labs, close contact with students. Our stellar Division III faculty, Division III being our science faculty, our stellar Division III faculty works with our students, stands next to them in the lab. Right? You're looking out into the world behind your protective glasses together, shoulder to shoulder, as a shared enterprise, as a collaboration, as a respectful inquiry, one where you're learning as a faculty member and you're teaching as a faculty member, and maybe sometimes the two blend into each other so much that you can't tell the difference between them. We advise theses. The thesis experience for me has been incredibly satisfying. I was a student who wrote a thesis in the philosophy department and learned so much from my dear advisors. I now spend every year working with 1 or 2 students that mean a great deal to me, and our effort means a great deal to me. We sit in my office, we talk, we go over drafts, we sit facing each other at the snack bar, going over word by word the ideas that we're hoping to express together, again collaboratively. I think about Rachel Schneebaum, who I worked with a couple of years ago, who is now a philosophy graduate student, and I expect that I'll write essays with her. I expect that I'll collaborate with her well into my career. It means a lot to me to work with my students on the thesis front. And then we've got our tutorial system, a system that I think we can rightly be proud of here at Williams, modeled in a way on a Cambridge-Oxford system of teaching and learning, but always adapted to the local conditions, always adapted to our intimate rural environment, one where we care about each other, where we support each other, as has been so eloquently indicated already. In those tutorials, I might have two students come to my office and one has prepared some remarks, the other has prepared some counter remarks. Those are times where we get to practice oral presentation, oral arguments, a time when we get to practice interacting with one another, not in the scripted, wooden way that sometimes a classroom can encourage, but instead as scholars on an adventure that means something to us. Those are wondrous days in the office when I can see my students arguing with one another, arguing out of respect, arguing out of the idea that they can make progress on topics that are essential to them, essential humanistic topics, essential scientific topics, essential topics having to do with our shared history. Our tutorial system, I think back at the tutorials I took as a student. I took a geoscience tutorial. I don't know how I wandered into one of those. But our tutorial system is one where it seems to me we achieve our best in bringing students into a field that maybe they never thought they'd study before. I think our tutorial system is at its best when it invites a student to engage in material seriously, with conviction, and with an enthusiasm, even though it is out of her comfort zone, even though it's not the thing that she's majoring in, even though it's only in the best liberal arts spirit that she signed up for that tutorial. They mean a lot to me to teach. It meant a lot to me to take them when I was a student. The teaching we do here at Williams on the faculty is something that we're conscious of, we focus on, we care about, we talk about. It's always, for me, and I think for my colleagues, it's always for me in the context of serious learning, moving forward, creating knowledge. I wouldn't take it any other way. You shouldn't either. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. And please give the panel a hand for their comments. Thank you so much for your comments. And so we are going to let you go now. There will be these special interest tours, and there'll be tour guides right outside the door if you'd like to do those. Just a couple of notes for the students who will be attending classes. Just to remind you, go to class, get there prior to the class, and stay through the entire period. And also, turn off your cell phones or put take off the ringers just so that doesn't interfere with the class as well. And then, you have, I think right around 5:30, I think the students are meant to meet with their hosts this evening. And remember that the hosts, they're not going to necessarily be with you every single minute. But you do have things that are scheduled. I would really encourage you to attend everything that you can, that's on the schedule. And the other thing is, have a great time. Use good judgment. I don't think I need to say anything more about that. Use good judgment, okay? So anyway, thank you again for coming today, and good luck to everybody. Take care.